was witnessing the birth of the indigenous church in Central Asia. We sow, we water, and what comes, this is God's. Personally, it has brought me so much depth in the way I live my faith. My first travel was to Uzbekistan. It was in 1995. Open Doors was already working in Central Asia at the time of the Soviet Union, because the republics of Central Asia were part of the Soviet Union, and Open Doors was working in the Soviet Union already. So we already had contacts in Central Asia. After the fall of the Soviet Union, those republics became independent. And this is when we started a special work, and it was geared to the possible indigenous believers that we could find there, but there were almost none. The first year really was more research, and then after we had identified new believers who were most of them secret believers, or who had been expelled from their villages or from their houses because they became Christian, we started to identify the needs they had, and we started to set up projects with them. Those were really very special times, extraordinary even, and because I feel very privileged, because I was witnessing the birth of the indigenous church in Central Asia, and at times it looked like if I was walking in the book of Acts. So many things were happening. Most of Central Asian new Christians were very young, between 15 and 25 at the time, and they would get to know Jesus by dreams, by healings, by special miracles, and then they would just leave houses, work, school, and go from villages to villages to proclaim the gospel and to tell people that Jesus was alive, and that they should follow him. And they didn't have scriptures in their own languages, so many of them fortunately could still read Russian. They would use this first, but in the villages people did not speak Russian. So this was one of our first projects, was of course to find Bible translators and other organizations who are specialized in Bible translation, and to set up projects to provide the scriptures, first the New Testament and later on the Old Testament, in all those different languages. And it was extraordinary. People would be touched by God, there would be miracles, there would be healings, dreams. It was really, they had nothing. They didn't have buildings together. They did not have songs, they didn't have scriptures, and still it happened. It was very, very extraordinary. I feel very privileged because I was witnessing the birth of the indigenous church in Central Asia. so many of the older generation went back to Islam because this is what they knew from the old days. But when the young people started to convert, then some parents became a little bit worried, and later on the government, but they said, oh well, a couple of hundreds, Uzbek believers, and we are with over 30 millions in this country, we don't care. But then after a few years it had become a movement, and people came to the Lord by hundreds. And then, the government started to get very, very worried what would happen. And so then they introduced new laws against conversion, all kind of laws. And people, new converts, started to lose their jobs, to be expelled from their families, to be expelled from their houses, and even to be threatened, and even to be beaten up, and a few even died. And so they could not organize themselves. They wanted so very much, those young Christians, to have a nice church building, and to be able to sing aloud in the church, and to have all kind of activities with children, and children camps, and leadership, all kind of activity we have here. But it was of course not permitted. So from one moment to another moment, this was back in 98, 99, they had to organize themselves in another way, and to go to the underground system. And in this we could help them, of course, because we already had experience from Eastern Europe, from the Soviet Union, from China. So we knew about being an underground church, and in this we could really help them a lot. It was difficult, it was not easy, but there were so many blessings there. In Central Asia itself, there are so many testimonies of so many people who found the Lord and who were helped after this, and who found a new family, not only in their countries, but everywhere, because they know we pray for them, they know we give, they know we visit them. But the real impact, only God knows. God knows His own. And so we sow, we water, and what comes, this is God's. Personally, it has brought me so much depth in my faith life, in the way I live my faith. And it's humbling. First you think, well, I'm the big brother, I know the Lord for so long, and I have so many things I could share with them, whether spiritual or material, and here I come and I will teach you. No way. My most important lessons in faith I have got in the field with my brothers and sisters. We did not speak the same language. Some of them even could not read or write. But through God, He used them to teach me many lessons, and lessons in humility especially. We need each other, we are one body. We can share what we have, but they also have a lot to share with us. And this is something we should not forget. We have a lot to learn from them.